Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan, and today, Tony, Damon, and I are discussing our journeys with mental health. What personal experience have prompted our mental health journeys? How do we prioritize mental health in a world that demands so much? This is Losing My Mind.
You better catch it.
Catch what?
Your mind. Catch up with
Oh, I was about to say catch that tea. Okay,
You
catch
must
the
have just lost your mind. Oh, bring that Beyonce song back out the grave.
What song is that?
You must have just lost your
one
mind.
of the deep cuts, but you know, it
Oh,
came out.
what?
It came out before
that was
we
a
graduated college.
Yeah.
Like, and they used to play it at the clubs all the time, every weekend
It's a bop.
when we first
Don't
moved to
know
New
her.
York.
Certified.
Thought she
You
rapped.
know, we'll play it after the show.
Certified.
We'll play it after the
Certified.
show.
Certified bop. So today I'm really excited, you guys, because we're going to welcome someone that we actually first came across on social media, where he's consistently arming our community with information, nuggets, and his lived experience as it relates to our well-being. When we talk about people who are doing the work, he is the epitome of exactly that. So today we have the privilege of welcoming mental health advocate and senior press secretary at the Human Rights Campaign, Jarred Denzel Keller, to our Surface Level family.
Oh, what, I can talk now? Or
You're
I was
on.
talking
Yo,
about-
okay.
Yeah.
That is such a sweet introduction. Also.
Yeah, you know, we make it nice around here. We try to.
Make it nice.
Try to
you
make it
know.
nice.
Listen, we try to be one with the earth. So we are a part of the Earth segment of Earth, Wind, and Fire right now.
Okay.
That's what our season is thematically. You know,
It's giving.
Centered
Focused on.
Yeah.
And so because we are officially in Pride Month,
Okay.
I thought it would be really interesting for us to ground ourselves with a little Black and queer trivia.
I was like, is she about to go the trivia
Interesting.
route?
I am
Okay.
going to go the
She
trivia
said, I don't have
route.
to answer the question, so I'm going to do
Exactly.
it.
I author the
Like
questions.
in Pride Month, I don't know if I want to ground myself.
You don't want.
I don't want to
what
be
do you wanna do?
grounded.
What do you want to do?
That sounds like I'm on punishment.
No, you may, maybe
Punishment
you like
ain't
to be
bad.
punished.
Oh.
Punishment ain't
Exactly.
bad.
Spank me.
Don't
Exactly.
tempt
Well,
me
go
with a
ahead.
good time.
All right.
The
now.
mom said, don't look in my eyes.
Don't look in my eyes.
See how the girls get nasty
That's
real
how you
quick.
get folded up.
Immediately. It don't take nothing. All right.
Clear your throat.
So, first question. When was the first ever latex ball, which is an iconic event within the ballroom scene that aims to raise HIV awareness? Was it 1980, 1990, or 2000? Let's start with you, Jarred.
90?
Okay, you say 90.
90.
Okay.
90. I'm gonna say, because I don't know how the history of the latex ball, but I don't know why I feel like it's newer for some reason. Maybe
So are
not.
you going
I'm
with
gonna say
2000?
2000.
Okay. Well, you're wrong. 1990.
You got happy
Yeah.
about that.
So, no, I was just happy to give some clarity to the situation.
She's
So,
nasty.
1990 latex ball actually just happened last week or a couple days ago, actually. So, if you didn't get to it this year, try again for 2024.
Men's health crisis. That's why I thought 90.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, 80's too early. 2000 feels
Yeah.
late for them to be doing
Right.
it.
Oh, look at you using little context clues and things.
Hello?
All right now.
Don't tempt me with a good trivia time.
Okay. All right. Next question. Which actress made history as the first openly transgender woman to be nominated for an Emmy Award? Is it A, Janet Mock, B, Laverne Cox, or C, Angelica Ross? Let's
Wait, go
start
to somebody
with
else first. I gotta think.
It's-
Wait, the first repeat the question.
the first openly transgender woman to be nominated for an Emmy Award.
Okay.
it's
Well,
Laver-
I think it might be Laverne Cox, no?
It's Laverne
well,
Cox.
you gotta answer about
Let's see. So 2 for Laverne.
I say
Cox.
Laverne.
Yeah, I was gonna say Laverne as well.
Okay, I made that easy. Yes. 2014, Laverne Cox
Orange
Yeah.
is the new black.
made
Orange is the
history.
new
She's
black.
the
Orange is
first
the new black.
nominated. Now,
First nominated.
bonus. Who was the first transgender woman
showed
to actually win?
No one.
Michaela
Emmy?
J.
No one.
Oh, what did she win?
A Golden Globe.
Win. To win.
Period.
To
Bonus. Still bonus. Still bonus.
We're going to move on. All right.
But did she win nothing? No, she won a Golden Globe.
Yes. Okay. All right. Next question. So we all know Sizzle. Do we know
Yeah,
Sizzle?
Miami. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I'm like,
I thought you said SZA too. At first I was like, yeah, I know SZA.
Sizzle.
Sizzle.
An annual event that combined parties, cultural celebrations, and entertainment for the Black and queer community. What was their tagline? Was it A, embrace your sizzle? B,
not.
love is sizzle? Or C, feel the sizzle?
I hope it was Phil the
I
I
hope
Sizzle.
hope it was,
say
yeah,
C.
feel the sizzle too.
Oh,
Lord,
okay.
I bet
Did I
it's
make
A.
that too easy? It was feel the
It was-
sizzle.
Okay, you just should be writing taglines. I was just like, woo.
Okay. Next question. Which city was Lee Daniels born and raised in? Was it A, Philadelphia, B, New York City, or C, Chicago?
I'm from Chicago. I'm gonna say Chicago just
You say
because
Chicago.
it's fun.
You think that's how
The
we all
Shy.
talk?
I'm from Chicago. That is how they sound too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Let me talk to Lena about that. Philly?
Yeah, I was gonna say Philly too.
Okay, ding, ding, ding.
Yay.
Oh.
You were wrong.
Philadelphia.
No, I just no, I knew that I was wrong.
You're happy for facts. Just happy for
Yes.
information.
Yes.
Period. All right. The last question. Which iconic Black lesbian feminist coined the term intersectionality? Is it A, Audre Lorde, B, Angela Davis, or C, Kimberly Crenshaw? Don't take too long. You say Audre Lorde.
I'm looking with Kimberly. The third C.
You say Kimberly.
Crenshaw? What was the middle?
Angela Davis.
I'm gonna say Angela Bassett. No, it didn't say. Angela Davis did the thing.
Well, she didn't do that one. So Kimberly is the correct answer. Intersectionality was coined in 1989
Oh,
as a term to obviously explain the intersection of different identities. So the final question is for you, Jarred, and you can answer this however you would like.
just me?
Just you. What are you
Okay.
curious about?
I'm curious as to how, like, having the conversation around mental health with Black people, like, how that will progress. Like, will Black people become more open to, like, taking depression medication if that's what you need? Like, not just doing, like, bare bones going to therapy. Because, like, that's important. But I feel like a lot of people go to therapy. Like, if you need something past that, like, is that something we will see continue? Because I feel like we're in a space right now where mental health is kind of like a buzzword thing. And I want to see people, like, really, like, dig into it and, like, figure out what mental health means for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into a couple
That
things.
sounds like a campaign. What does mental health mean to
To you.
Ooh, oh.
There you go. You always got that marketing hat on.
No.
Let Tony write the tag.
Adjust my crown. All right. So the first question that I want us all to answer is this. I think a lot of people can sort of trace back the beginning of their mental health journey to a specific life event. I want to know if we can all share, if it applies to us, what life event sort of made us take that step and really invest into our mental health. Jarred, let's start with you.
I mean, honestly, it was fairly recent. Within the last few years, I had a roommate when I lived in Harlem. I lived for about 3 years, and then about 3 weeks after we moved out, I moved to DC. He moved to Atlanta. He took his own life, and like, I was already somewhat comfortable with the conversation around mental health, but when he died, it was like, you got to face this shit. Like, you got to really, like, look in the mirror and figure it out, because I've had my own suicide ideations. And when he passed away, it was like, you got to really, like, dig into this and figure out what that means for you. And, like, that was shortly after that I started talking on social media about mental health. But that was, like, the catalyst that, like, pushed it ahead. Because I was comfortable with it, but in my own bubble, in my own world. Like, I wouldn't talk about it to other people. I just, like, dealt with it on my own. And I remember after he passed, like, feeling a little bit guilty because I didn't talk to him about it. And I also didn't know he was struggling with it. But, like, we could have been some type of something for each other, you know? But I kind of kept it to myself. But, like, it really did kind of push me in a totally different direction with mental health.
When you started that experience, like, what was that like? I'm assuming that you hadn't really done any, like, big investments in mental health prior to that. But, like, what was that experience like? Did it take you a while to get, like, used to it? Did it feel immediately like cathartic, like it was a release?
It was scary. Like I was on anxiety and depression medication prior to that, but it was like even though I knew I had it and I was taking medication for it, I didn't really admit it. Like I wouldn't say I'm depressed or I struggle with depression. I would be like, oh, I'm just like low or I feel sad, even with me taking the medication. So it was a little scary. It's tough to admit that kind of thing to yourself. But I also felt like after he passed, it was something that I needed to do. Like even when I started talking on social media, it was like, you got to stop acting like this isn't a thing. You got to stop like burying it at the back of your head and like talk about it, like whatever that is for you. Like I know a lot of people might not be that comfortable doing that, but I felt like it was something I needed to do because I don't know, I feel like I was going crazy, and if I didn't like get it out, I really don't know what the outcome would have been, and that scared me. That if I didn't talk about it, I don't know what the outcome would have been.
So that was a wake up call.
Yeah, it was.
Just to be like,
it really was.
Yeah. Interesting. It made me think about how Oprah Winfrey says, when God is sending you messages, they start as like whispers and then it gets louder and louder and louder until like the house is like crashing down.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of. But it's, those wake up calls, we have to listen to that, right? Because it could literally save your life.
Yeah. I mean, because it was whispers at first and I would ignore it, and then life was like, bitch, I said, like, pay attention. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, yeah. But like it took that, and I feel like even though everything that happened in that period of my life was super fucking crazy, it all needed to happen because I don't think I would even be here talking to y'all right now for a variety of different reasons. I might not physically even be here right now if I hadn't had that happen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me personally, that life moment that made me want to sort of explore my mental health and things of that nature also came recently. And it actually was this platform, doing this podcast, doing Surface Level. This was the life event that kind of made me want to explore more of who I am and learn more about myself. And because it provided a platform for me to say the things out loud that I never really would say out loud and never had a reason to do so in such a way. And so really, talking about my status and being HIV positive, once I did that, it was like I released the fear and I got to the other side of fear. And then I was able to, really feel free,
like do the healing.
and also feel like, okay, well, there's nothing I can't do now. And that made me really curious about finding out more of who I am and how I move. And so, thank God for Surface Level.
So you were like inspired by the possibilities. Like you had a positive experience of sort of releasing something that you held so close to yourself. And after you had that, I guess that feedback or that reaction or that experience, it was like, maybe I can actually do this in other parts of my life.
Exactly. It was such an unlock to, when it's like having being in a room full of rooms, if you will, and all the doors are locked and you unlock this one door that opens up all the rest of them. That's what it felt like for me.
Right. That freeing feeling, there's nothing like that. Like it's like a weight on your shoulders, and then to just talk about it, especially in like such a like public platform. But like it's good. Like for me, talking about it at such like a large level, like really helped me to feel like, oh, shit, I can do anything now. Like within reason, but like I can do anything now. Like it really does like make you feel like getting that off your chest, talking about it makes you feel, I don't know, invincible. It's a great feeling.
How about you, Damon?
I've talked about a relationship I was in previously in my life that became abusive. And a lot of it was happening behind closed doors, and I didn't talk about it, like even to you all, until after it was over. And part of that experience is like I remember being in this place of just like sheer confusion. I say a lot of times in my life, if nothing else, I'm decisive. Like rarely am I ever just like, they're like, Damon, what do you want to do? Damon, what do you think is the thing? And I'm like, this is what I think is right. And then like when you all work with me, you're like, I like this. Like I'm very clear 90% of the time. And I remember being in this place and I was just like, I feel like I'm spinning. and I feel like I'm like I can't grasp hold of just like the thing that like centers me, and like when you're trying to go home and have peace and have relation, I'm just like so many things are happening. We're up, we're down, we're everywhere, and like. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Like, or at least I didn't feel like I could talk to people about it because there's like shame that like how for those times I was thinking, well, how do you let yourself end up in this situation and all these things? And I remember going.
How did you? You're asking yourself, how did I get here?
Yeah. And I remember going to therapy, and I remember talking for the first time. I was like, wow, the thing that have liked most about that journey for me is just it's one of the few places that exists purely for me.
Yeah.
And just purely even without how do I say this? Like I'm just gonna say it flat out, but like without the thoughtfulness of like what other people are gonna think about what I have to say.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm talking to a friend, there's a level of like care that maybe you put into a conversation where it's just like you're a professional. I'm blurting it out. This is what it. This
They're
is what's
quite
happening in my
there to
exactly
help you process those thoughts together.
Versus just like there are certain things where like. I don't know, like if I'm going through something and I know it's a trigger for you, or I know that it like makes you uncomfortable, like maybe I don't bring it like as honestly and as raw as I would like to. And that experience, it was something that I had to take somewhere where I was just like, I don't have this answer.
Yeah.
I can't find the path for myself. And there was just a lot of getting back to the value of me and just the experience of understanding that like I couldn't fix a thing. So yeah, that for me however many years ago was the thing where I was just like something has to change.
Yeah. I'm kind of in a similar boat where my mental health journey started because I was in a relationship where I felt like I was failing my partner. I wasn't proud of some of the decisions that I made throughout the relationship, and if I could be completely candid, I think that my decision to go into therapy was, I mean, partly wanting to understand myself, but also partly kind of performative. Like I wanted to prove to my partner that I was actively making strides to be a better partner and be able to show up in a better way. And so going into that experience, with that mission of wanting to work on the relationship was actually funny because the very first session I broke down in tears, and it was about family, and it was about like childhood and all these things that I packed away. And so my experience with mental health took a unexpected turn because I thought I was going to go in there like, okay, well, tell me how to be a better boyfriend. When really it was just like I was starting to understand like why I react to things a certain way, like why I don't engage in conflict, why I keep things bottled up. And so that experience was really illuminating because I don't think that I sat with those thoughts and interrogated those thoughts enough on my own. It was something really valuable about having somebody asking the right questions and me being like, well, damn, like, I don't know. Right. I don't think I care about that. And then I started talking about it. I was like, wait, I actually do care about it because now I'm crying. I was actually very embarrassed. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know why. He was like, you don't have to apologize. I was like, I don't think I was supposed to cry when I first met you. Like, I'm not like this. But obviously that's the point.
That's the thing. Right. That's what I'm getting ready to say is you get to have that experience. So that was all locked in, and I'm glad that you were able to just have that for yourself and like understand that there are things that you actually do care more about than you think.
Right. And I mean, the whole journey so far has been an unlock. So this next question is more around like, what have you unlocked about yourself and like through your mental health journey, whether that be through a therapist or whatever other measure, but like, what did you learn about yourself that you would consider is not really a healthy way to operate? And how are you actively working on that today? Damon, let's start with you.
The thing that I've learned a lot about actually my recent therapy is my desire to empathize with someone is much less important than the act of just believing them when they say something. And I say that because a lot of how I viewed interaction and if I'm with my partner, a lot of it is through the lens of they said this thing about their life. How does that relate to my life? What are the things that I've been through that makes me kind of relate? And you get through this thing where it becomes less about what they're saying to you and understanding that and hearing it and believing it, and more about centering my own experiences, my own biases, and my own like points of view. And I think it was coming from a good place of trying to make you feel like I'm being understanding, or just make people feel like I get it. And I think what I'm finding is more important is just to be a better listener, and just like get to like the honesty and the core of like this person and what they're communicating. And for me, that's just been a tool that I feel like I'm trying to sharpen a bit more. But yeah, it's just like I'm listening to like understand versus listening to like just like center your own experiences is a thing that I was just like, I guess I was doing that. And maybe it wasn't the best thing. Tony?
I think the revelation for me is that 9 times out of 10 I already have the answer.
Okay.
And that's the revelation. It's just that like a lot of times you already have you already have the information, and like you said, Jordan, earlier, it's about having someone that asks you the right questions for you to like get to arrive to that conclusion yourself. And so audibly saying the things out loud and talking through my thoughts really helped me to actually like get to that end result of like, okay, now this makes sense. I understand. And so that was a part of also discovering like the unhealthy behavior, was that I get in my own way a lot of times. You know, we're our own biggest critics. We will talk ourselves out of a good thing. And that to me was also revelatory. It's like if I can get out of my own way, then and only then will I be able to do amazing things that I'm capable of. And so, you know, I constantly have to remind myself that I have this information. And so it's not, you know, having the information is one thing, but having the information and actively being aware so that you can navigate life differently is another thing. And so I try to do that as much as I can.
Listen, you've been inspired from the moment that you started this journey, huh? It's like I'm the one. That's what I'm learning.
Not the two.
In terms, like, I feel like I talk about this so much, but I feel like for me, an unhealthy thing that I learned about myself was that my defense mechanism of detaching from people who I have conflict with was not serving me. And so I remember there was one exercise where my therapist wanted me to write a letter to my father. And I had that homework for like 3 months. Like, he would ask me every week, like, did you write the letter? I'm like, no. And for me, even though I feel like I've gotten better with having uncomfortable conversations, it's still terrifying for me to initiate them. Like, if someone comes to me and say, I have this problem, like, yeah, I'll be nervous, but like, I'll do it because I'm already here. I'm already in the frying pan. So like, where are you going?
She's catfish.
But if it's up to me and I'm in my mind about like, well, what am I going to say and how am I going to present it? And I like, for a very long time, I associated conflict with like disillusion of relationships. And so I thought that preserving them meant not adding the strain of conflict on top of it. And yeah, I think that what I learned from that going forward is that I just need to do a little bit more work preparing for those conversations. I think a lot, like, I'm not one of those just like off the cuff, speak from your heart type of person. A lot of times that kind of makes me nervous. I have to figure out what I want to say. And figure out what part is ego, what part is like not on topic, which like, and just filter through that and be able to have a conversation that I feel like is going to be helpful. But yeah, that's still like an ongoing thing for me. I feel like when I'm dealing with disappointments in my relationships, my thought or my thought process is to put the thing that's not making me happy over there somewhere where I can't see it, and then distract myself with the things that are currently making me happy, so that I can in the near future feel better. But yeah, my therapist got me together and was just like, no, like he started working through scripts with me to be able to start having conversations with people. So yeah, I thought it was a serve to be nonchalant, and it's not. What about you, Jared?
That is, I'm tickled by that.
It's not a serve.
It's not a serve.
I think one of the things I learned about myself is that I hold on to a lot of shit. Like, I grew up in Louisiana. My parents are like mad churchy. So being gay didn't go over too well. And like me and my dad used to go at it to the point like it would get physical. And at the time when those things would happen, I looked at it as like, it's unfortunate, but this is just what happened. I didn't really process it or think about it. So like fast forward like 10 years later when I'm in my 20s and like I can't really date. I can't keep a man because like that like anger and resentment keeps showing up. And then I started going to therapy and it started to become a little bit more apparent. It's like, sweetheart, you are not over this. You keep telling yourself that you are and you think that you're fine. It's like, oh, this is unfortunate, but I'm fine now. It's like, but you're not. Like it keeps coming up in all these different ways. And like, I discovered that like I was really angry. Like just you could say good morning to me, I'd be like, bitch, fuck you. Like I was just angry about everything. And it kept surfacing up all the time. And it was tough to kind of go back and relive those things because, you know, in order to move on, you kind of got to rehash it and go back through it again. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to. That shit, I didn't want to go through it the first time. I definitely don't want to, you know, do it again. But I had to. It was the only way I was going to move on from it. But
You got to go through it to get through it.
you do. You gotta. That's the only way through. And it has helped me, but like I still have my moments where like I mentioned dating, like it still comes up a lot when you start trying to get close to another man. It just like it starts to bubble up again, and now I'll be like, Dad, stop it, you're doing it again. But like it's really hard when you've been conditioned over like that was what love looked like to me with another guy, and so like trying to work through all of that has been really tough. And it was similar when I first started going to my therapist. I came in about something else, and then we started talking about my family too, and I'm like boohoo crying. Now I don't mind crying because whatever, but like I started crying and like not having a breakdown, but like just being really open. And I realized in that moment, I was like, oh shit, I am not over these things. Like I thought I was fine, but clearly I'm not. Yeah. But it's like you need to go through that in order to get better.
100%.
Yeah. I was just thinking. No, sometimes I like to think in real time. But keep moving forward. Like with therapy and these things becoming more, let's say, mainstream or just more recognizable within our communities, sometimes do you think it's fair if members of the community refuse friendships or relationships with those who haven't either received therapy? Also considering all the barriers that still exist. Therapy sometimes is fucking expensive.
Right.
So like, Tony, let's start. Do you think that's a fair assessment to make?
Well, let's start with
okay. Oh, it's not
the facts. Because the humanrightscampaign.com, they say that the truth is that mental health challenges in the LGBTQ plus community are largely due to stigma, discrimination, and bias in all forms. However, LGBTQ plus people also face gaps in health insurance coverage. So similar to like you're talking about the money aspect of it, the financial. And in the United States, 18% of the LGBTQ plus adults of color have no health insurance coverage compared to 8% of all adults. So those statistics are very jarring, and just the whole sentiment of what's being said there kind of aligns to like what you're talking about. And, you know, I say that people have the free will to choose and select their friends based on whatever criteria they want. But, you know, I think, how does that serve you is what I go back to. And I think it's unfortunate if you try to like say you can't, certain people I won't allow myself to build relationships with because they haven't been to therapy. When we know that therapy is a privilege, we know that therapy is expensive, we know that therapy has been stigmatized. And in the Black community, like you hear about, like people always say, quote unquote, therapy is for crazy people, or I ain't paying nobody to tell me about me. So like I've had people say that, and people that I'm close with in my family that are like, therapy is like, that's a waste of money. And so I feel like it's a thing in our community, in the Black community, not even just the queer community, but really the Black community, that I think there's more work to be done with destigmatizing therapy, with affirming it, with encouraging it, with saying it's okay. We need to talk about our feelings. We're always here with it. Like there's so many family secrets. It's like, bitch, what? Like
the family secrets go off.
Oh my God. It's the gag of
Right.
it all is really, it's the gag awards. It really is. Like you sit there and you just like all these years, but like I've had my own, I guess, I don't know if it's a secret, but like me not talking about my HIV status for years, like that's a gag too. And you should be able to talk about these things with your family and feel comfortable and safe to do so. But we just, that's not in our DNA.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I do not think it's fair to discriminate like friendships and like potential boos because they didn't go to therapy. I think that therapy is becoming this like social status.
It is.
Yeah, I'm like,
thing.
it's very classist. It's just a
Yeah.
classist
It's something
thing.
people brag about now. Like,
Exactly,
I'm a
like
therapist.
exactly,
Right.
And it's just like sometimes I'm just like, are you even doing any work
Right,
in them
exactly.
therapy sessions? And so yeah,
You said performative earlier.
Right.
exactly, and I have to assume that there's some people that are going to therapy and maybe not even really like really going through it and really being open. Which, is part of it as well. You don't just show up and a therapist can fix you. But, I do think that it's fair to limit your friendships and your dating pool to people who are actively doing inner work.
Right. Yes.
And so does that mean that you have to do a $300 an hour therapy session? No. What that means is that you have a desire to learn about yourself and the world around you. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you spend a lot of time educating yourself with like different like documentaries and things like that. I just need to know that you are trying to make sense of what is going on with you and the world around you. If you are somebody who is spending the majority of your time just consuming entertainment and sort of not looking inward or not looking at like, history and how history can inform us and how we operate today, then there's going to be a disconnect. And we're not going to be able to grow in the same direction because you're not going to be able to show up for me in the way that I need you to as a friend or as a partner. So yeah, like not fair for the therapy thing at this point. It's kind of like a gold star for some people. But inner work is a non-fucking negotiable for me. You need to be trying to figure some stuff out and trying to figure it out and work through it. And you can do that for free or low cost if you care enough.
No, yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, you gotta at least be trying to better yourself. Everybody doesn't have access to therapy. It can be expensive as fuck, but like you gotta at least be trying to make the effort to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah,
Because like you'll see your relationships continue to play out the same way if you don't.
Was laughing for a second because I remember someone that we know said out loud that they are not a work in progress.
They're fine.
They was like, I'm not a work in progress.
Perfect Patty.
And it was such an interesting, like,
It definitely gagged
back
me.
and forth. They were like, I'm not a work in progress. And I was like, what?
I didn't know what to
I'm
do with the
always a work in
conversation.
progress.
I was just like,
But child, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag, and I don't believe in red flags. All right, so Jarred, as someone who's kind of built a presence online, speaking about your journey. We just want to say, so mental health resources have become more accessible, mainly thanks to largely to social media. However, a study published by the Journal of Medical Internet Research in 2018 found that 43% of social media posts related to mental health contain inaccurate information. So how are you approaching mental health advocacy with the level of nuance and care that it deserves?
Well, first of all, I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a life coach. I'm just like Jarred. But
Just Jarred.
Yes.
Right. I'm like, that sounds familiar.
Just myself. But like I approach them just telling my personal stories. Like I get on there and I talk about my depression. I talk about anxiety. I talked about substance abuse. I don't go on there trying to fix your life. Like I'm not Ariana. I'm not Mother Teresa. Like I just talk about the things that I've gone through. And I feel like that's why a lot of people have resonated with what I'm saying, because it's real life shit. Like a lot of us feel like we're going crazy. None of us have it figured out. Like we're all doing the best we can. But a lot of us like hold those things very tight. Like how you said with HIV. Like we don't talk openly about that because like either there's shame associated with it or people gonna think I'm fucking crazy. Because like when I first started doing it, I would literally post the things and I would put my phone away because I was like, Lord Jesus, they're gonna talk about me so bad. But I did it anyway because I felt like I had to. But I just talk about my own personal stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like people connect more with that versus me being someone who, and this is no shade to anybody who went to college, but like reading it off of a piece of paper and like, you need to do A, B, and C. Well, I'm not going to tell you to do shit. You do whatever you feel is best, but this is what happened to me. And this is how I dealt with it. And this is what I'm going through right now. And if you can identify with that, great. And if you can't, that's fine too. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But that's my personal experience. And it has helped people. I've had family members. There was one family member in particular that came to me and said that she had been taking depression medication for 12 years, and she never told me that until she saw my social media videos. So I just try to be authentic and my real self, and if it lands, it lands, and if it doesn't,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
fine.
personal connection there that adds a layer of connectivity that's important, and that made me think though of for you specifically, like, and going back to the performative thing, do you experience any backlash from people where they're like, oh, here he go again? Like, do that people think that you just tap dance and doing a song and dance around mental health and advocacy, and it's all a to-do? Like, do you get any backlash?
Well, it's social media, so people say a lot of things. They always have their opinions. I mean, I got mine too, but they have their opinions. I've had some people say some awful things to me. I just kind of choose to ignore it.
Good.
I have had some people that will say like, oh, it's like a tap dance. But I'm like, you are entitled to feel however you feel like feeling. I don't give a fuck, but like you're entitled to feel that way. But like, I know that it's genuine. I know that it's real, and I know that it is helping people. Because I've had people like, I live on 8th Street in DC. I've had people stop me on the street, like, I saw your videos. I'm like, you're the dude with the signs that's be on your roof all the time. And like, it's helped me feel like this and this and that. So even when people do say crazy stuff to me, it balances out with like people that like feel like it's actually helped them or allow them to be more open, because that's not easy. Like, going online, like I've had these thoughts before. I'm like, God, I'm never gonna get a boyfriend because like I'm so open about this and everyone's gonna think I'm nuts. But like I also feel like, well, it's on the table now, so you choose to deal with it or not. Like you know what's happening. If you want to deal with it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
Look at the Carfax.
And I think as particularly Black queer people, we have to think about the whole picture. Like if we were talking about the stigma and things around it. Stigma is something that is kind of taken away from like our own community, seeing the possibility model, seeing that like, hey, I'm not alone in the world. And it's less connected maybe to like actually going to a health professional. Like that's another piece of it. And I think all these building blocks are the things that like build a better mental health like collective. And I think that's where it's important to say like, hey, I'm not a doctor. That's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here to do is share so that hopefully you feel a little bit more seen. What I'm here to, and it's kind of what we try and do on our show. Is just like, I'm not a professional. I'm just like, I can just tell you how I lived, where it brought me, and there are maybe nuggets that align with your life, and you can pick that up. But hey, don't go do no shit at work and say Damon told you now.
Exactly.
And I think that's the balance.
No, it's really important. You mentioned something about like you don't try to be instructional with your content. That's something that stuck out to me too, because I don't know if you remember Damon, but we had a conversation, 3 of us, like I don't know, months ago or something like that, we were considering having a conversation about relationship advice. And I remember your feedback being, well, I want to be very careful with that because who are we to give advice? And that really stuck with me because I'm like, that's what's required to have a responsible platform, right? Like, when we talking, and this is about relationships, we're talking about mental health now, which is even more on the line, if you will. But like, we aren't psychologists, we aren't psychiatrists, we aren't neuroscientists. I believe in science, and so I believe the people like we can't give instruction until we've been students, and so I think that is like that is so important because I'm seeing the rise of younger adults and younger teens and things like that self-diagnosing themselves at a higher rate because they have so much access to Instagram carousels and TikToks with people from down the street who want to talk about ADHD. And it's like, it's not helpful because when people misdiagnose themselves, they may end up doing things that's not really going to treat what they actually are probably experiencing. They're adding names and labels to things that don't apply to them and could be harming the community that is a part of that community. And so, if you're not an expert, listen, tell your story with mental health.
And also it's giving you, like, you literally don't have a license
at all
to do any of this.
No credentials, nothing.
Just an email address.
Just an email address. Not even that, just a DM.
They don't even have email addresses.
Ain't no, just a link tree. Y'all better stop.
But a moment ago, Jarred talked about putting it all on the table and showing your cards, and like we're not perfect human beings. And so last week we actually discussed the idea of Black excellence and the negative mental impact of constantly feeling the need to prove our worth and value. So what mental health practices do we utilize to improve our self-image and self-worth? So this is a little bit of homework for us and also for our listeners.
I mean, one of the places this shows up for me the most is at work because I come from very humble beginnings. I'm from the hood, and I didn't have a lot of knowledge of how corporate America worked. So I felt like I had to like do everything and be everything, and I would like make myself so anxious, like trying to keep up this whole Black excellence thing. And like I was also the only one, so if I messed up, it stood out. But I was kind of making myself a little bit crazy. But one thing I do for myself that really does help me is I will read my resume to myself. Like sometimes you have to remind yourself who the fuck you are. Like you can get very insecure and like, oh shit, like I can't do this, I can't do that. It's like, bitch, you have done A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Like, what are you talking about? Like you can do this too. And I have to say that to myself. I sound crazy, but I will look in the mirror and I'll be like, you got this. You can do this. Like you've done all of these things. Like, what are you even talking about right now? But like sometimes you have to, and it helps me like substantially, especially when I start to feel low. And again, when I'm talking about work and I'm just trying to keep up with everything, it's like, girl, you done this before, you can do it again. Like, come on now, come on.
Yes, you know it's funny you say that because it's like the positive affirmations and the pep talks that we give ourselves, like that is so valuable and important, and we have to be our biggest cheerleaders. We have to give ourselves those constant reminders, and also just trying to make sure that the content I consume and take in adds some value. Like, yes, we're going to have our escapism, and we're going to watch our Housewives, and we're going to laugh at the stuff on the Shade Room and stuff like that. But then we also we follow the Jarreds of the world that are putting out, positivity and also just information and nuggets and revealing yourself, which is a possibility model for others. Like we've been talking about this whole time, to now reveal ourselves and what's our truth and really figuring out what's mental health to you.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Gail. I think what I do to sort of, and this is very recent, that I started doing to reaffirm my self-worth has been resting.
Yes, ma'am.
That's important.
And so I think that even from like a very young child, I always felt like I had to overcompensate because I was gay. And because I didn't play a sport and I wasn't an athlete. And so the family didn't really go up for me as much as they did for the boys who were star athletes. And so at a very young age, I learned that by overachieving in other things meant validation, meant acceptance, meant being celebrated. And I think that that has stuck with me through my entire life. But I'm finally at this juncture right now where it's just like a little bit too much going on between managing a day job, managing a podcast, a platform that's growing, that requires more of my attention. Understanding that like my friends are getting older and we're dealing with more serious things that people need to be like present for. And it's like, you need to like just stop and put the phone away, close the laptop, lay on the couch, just watch something. And then I think for me, what it's telling myself is that even when I'm not doing anything, even when I'm not producing or creating or socializing or networking, that I still deserve to be happy in that moment. And so that's actually helped me feel just more whole and less of just like a person that produces something that makes other people happy. And so that's helped me just sort of like be a lot more confident in setting even more boundaries. But it's something that I'm still working through because I still jam-pack this schedule, trying to make sure that like I'm doing the work thing, I'm doing the podcast thing, I'm making time for this person that I just met that I feel like, we could have a really great, like maybe friendship, maybe like business relationship. And it's just,
listen,
sometimes
Jordan moonlights as an event planner of just
the jack of every trade.
I just want to lay down. So Sundays have been nice. Sundays have been
I love
nice.
Sundays. People always try to, what are you doing Sunday?
Nothing, right? Exactly.
Why?
I'm doing nothing.
Stop asking me that.
I'm watching my soaps.
Not my soul.
My stories.
Yes, that's what I meant to
My
say.
stories.
Thank you for getting me together.
The thing, it's odd to say it this way, but the thing that has made me like feel more worthy is just like being realistic about when I'm down or at capacity.
Yes.
And what I mean is like in even like work, like I remember like the past few weeks I had some tough things happen. Like I had some deaths in my family and just like a lot of things were happening in my life. And we talk a lot. People are always like, bring your full self to work. And I've talked about this before, how I had a lot of things happen. My dad had 3 years ago. It's like 3 or so years ago at work. And I was like, at work and I'm still perfect. And nothing's wrong. And I was just like, I'll never do that to myself again. Because I deserve to be a person that is going through something and may feel a bit broken right now. And should be able to communicate, hey, I can't do this. And I remember I came in, I had gone to Chicago for the weekend to go to a funeral, and I came back in on like Tuesday after flying back Monday. And I was having a meeting with my boss's boss, my head of merch, and she's just like, okay, where are we on these things? I was like, I got part of this and I don't have this I was like, I'm giving you the best that I have right now because this is where I am in my life. These things are happening. I will get to these things eventually, but I'm not going to drive myself nuts and like overexert myself in this moment to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not even just luckily, but like she's a person that is understanding and one of the people I've respected most of many of the people I've worked for. And I just remember leaving that feeling good for me, feeling like that. I'm just like, there's so many things I can do, and I'm just like, and like feeling like motivating me doesn't always mean like I found the happy thing that motivates me to do more. Sometimes it means I found the confidence to just be like less.
That's about me right now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, me focusing on me is not going to benefit you right now in this moment, and you need to be okay with that.
And that's the net on that.
Period.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic.
Drop it and throw it across the room. Throw it across.
Please don't start tearing the studio up.
No, we can't take
now
these
she a
out
rock
of the
star.
desk. We can't take these out of the desk. I might crowd surf later.
Oh my God.
Who's karaoke?
Child.
The three of y'all.
Anyhow, let me bring it on back. Bring it on back. So we want to thank you, Jarred, for sharing this space with us. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's an ongoing conversation and one that we hope people will continue that are listening to this conversation. So we want to thank you, and we would like you to just share with people how they can find you. If there's anything going on with work that you want to share, or any information, resources, what have you, please do so.
Well, thank y'all for having me. This has been really fun. I'm on Instagram at Jarred.Denzel. That's Jarred with 2 R's. You know, I'm taking things as it comes. Like, this was really cool. As things pop up, I enjoy doing it. I feel very blessed to be doing all the things I'm doing because I never thought I would be doing any of this stuff. It's weird that, like, people are interested in what I have to say. But I think one thing, if you take away from anything I say, is that we're all a little bit fucked up. Mm-hmm. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to, like you just said, like, have your moments where you admit, like, this is where I'm at right now. And that's okay. Like, it's okay if you're not 100% together. And just navigate that however is best for you, but continue to work on yourself.
Yes. And on that note, that is all the time we have this week. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.